everyone. I hope you all are enjoying your 3-day weekend and getting out on some amazing adventures, at least in Colorado. The weather has been really, really nice. So I've definitely been jealous that I've been recovering from the Sun Mountain 50 miler. I definitely am ready to get back out on the trails. But yeah, I hope everyone else is having some amazing adventures and that this weekend is just gearing everybody up for summer adventures. But yeah, the kind of purpose of this video is I really wanted to just recap my most recent 50-mile finish. It was the Sun Mountain 50-mile race up in Winthrop, Washington. It actually ended up being about 53 miles, so it was slightly longer than I anticipated. But yeah, I wanted to kind of recap the race. I was going to break it out into kind of 3 segments and just describe the course profile, how the overall results went, and then kind of some key things that I learned from a nutrition standpoint, and then some small wins. It definitely wasn't the race that I had hoped for. I was honestly really hoping to run it in under 11 hours, more specifically around 10 and a half hours. But I quickly realized after realizing that the looped course was longer than 25 miles that it would take longer. And then unfortunately, I ended up getting really, really sick the last 12 miles of the race. So it did have an overall impact. I actually finished in like 13 hours. So it wasn't the result I was wanting, but I am happy that I finished overall. And I took a lot of learnings that I don't think I would have had if I didn't run this race at this time. And it could have potentially impacted my A race, which is the Never Summer 100K that is in about 8 weeks now. So I guess if I preface this, I originally was supposed to run the 50K. I felt really ready with the 50K, but again, with Never Summer being my A race, I really wanted to be able to experience kind of those lower lows that you get in the longer ultra distance. So last minute, I decided to just rip the Band-Aid off and run the 50-mile race. I feel like my training's been going pretty well. I knew I could finish. I also knew the course format, and I felt like, okay, I can push it, and if things go bad, I can always just finish, which did end up happening. But yeah, overall, I'm just really happy that I finished the race and took a bunch of learnings away. So as far as the race format, unfortunately, they had to change the course last minute due to not obtaining permits that they need for some of the trail use to loop the course. So it ended up being about a 5 to 6 mile run on the road, and then it basically was like 2 18, 19 mile loops with about 4,500 feet of vert, or I guess 4,000 feet of vert, that takes you up in Winthrop over Sun Mountain on the ridgeline. It's really, really pretty, and it's actually really runnable, and the climbs are not as steep as you think they would be. So overall, it's a really great course, and I think it would be a really good course to PR on. It just was not my day. So to start off in the beginning, I'm not a road runner, so I'm never that confident, and I do kind of get the race nerves, so I tend to kind of hold back in the beginning. So when I started the race, my whole body was just like cramping up. I wasn't feeling right. I didn't have great sleep, and there were kind of some unforeseen circumstances that happened in the week that kind of, I think, impacted my race as well, that I won't go into too much detail on. But anyways, I started the race. I had a bunch of cramps, so I just kind of focused on myself. I got in some extra electrolytes and just was like trying to chug my noon hydration to really get rid of the cramping. I took a gel, and then after about 30 minutes in, I kind of got into my groove and I felt really good, and I started running really well. I went from like an 11-minute pace to like an 8:40 pace. So I think I just needed to kind of warm up and get in my zone, and I was feeling really, really good. So I started the first loop at about mile 6. I felt really strong on the climbs, and then on the down, I felt super strong. My quads were holding up. I was running super fast. I passed a ton of people, and honestly, like, I was super happy with the first loop. It ended up being about 26.7 miles, and I think like 4,500 feet of gain or 4,700 feet of gain total, somewhere in between 4,500 and 5,000 feet, which is pretty consistent with the trail marathons I've ran in the past, and I came in at like right over 5 hours. So I actually PR'd my trail marathon by like 13 minutes, which I was really stoked about. But I was feeling kind of tired, and I knew that that was just kind of what I signed up for. I was like, well, this is now the time to grind, and this is what I came here for, and this is why I signed up for the 50 miler, was to really push myself and get myself to those lows. So my dad actually was nice enough, because there was no crew access, to hike up and have like a little crew station set up for me. So we got my bottle situated, switched out my gels, did everything good, and I went on my merry way. And I started the climb again, because most of the climb is in the first part of the loop. And it was going pretty well, you know, like I'm definitely more of a downhill girl, not an uphill girl. So a few people passed me, but I kind of knew that that's something that I just have to deal with, and that my strength would be in the second loop of the course, or the second half of the loop. So I started going up, and then when we were probably about like 2,000 feet into the climb, I noticed that I just wasn't feeling that great. Like my diaphragm wasn't feeling good. And I just kept telling myself, like, get through the climb, and take a gel. So I get to the top, I take a gel, and I'm like getting ready to run, and I just like don't feel good. Like my stomach is kind of like in knots. TMI, but I started getting that I have to go poop situation like really badly every time I would run downhill. So I knew there was an aid station coming up. I knew they would have salty food, because I just had gels. So I was like, just get down there. I can use the restroom. I can do all of these things, get some food, and then I'll be ready for the second part of the loop. So I get down there, and I try to use the restroom, couldn't use the restroom. The only thing down there that they had that really tasted good to me was these olives. So I downed a bunch of olives. I had a few chips, and then I kept going, and I just wasn't feeling good. So I was like, you know what, just push yourself down the hill, like at least try to get that jogging in. I went down those 5 miles. Unfortunately, it wasn't as fast as I wanted to on the downs, but I was happy that like my legs were, if I hadn't been not feeling good, my legs would have held up to continue to run. So I was pretty pleased about that. But then unfortunately, right at around like mile 37, 38, my stomach just couldn't handle it anymore. And I don't think it really had like a fueling issue where I felt nauseous. I've had it where I felt like really depleted and dehydrated, but not where I was feeling like I was gonna vomit. So I, was always told just like keep eating no matter what. So I ate a gel, I think it was a Spring Energy Canterbury gel. And then I realized, oh shoot, there was an aid station. So I could have just ate the salty foods, but because that seemed to be what my stomach was settling best with. But anyways, I had the gel, I ran down, I was like, okay, eat some chips. And I start going up like the last bit, which is like kind of a flat road. And then it goes on some single track, and then it has like a pretty gentle climb before the last downhill. So I start going, and then unfortunately my stomach just turns. And long story short, the rest of the race, I was just puking every time, and I got to a point where I had to walk it in, because I would just run 0.2 miles, and then I would get sick, and I'd have to drop my poles and drop my stuff, and I'd puke. So I had nothing left in me. By the time I got to the downhill section, or that last downhill, my diaphragm hurt so bad from just vomiting so much that it just, my lungs hurt. I was shutting down. My body was shutting down. I walked into the last aid station. My poor dad was there for like 12 hours. It seemed like, I think it was like 11 hours or 11 and a half hours. I was like, I'm so sorry this took so long, because it wasn't the best weather that day to just be standing around. So I ended up getting some chips. I knew it was going to be longer at that point. It was roughly 47 miles. Watch out, Poppy. Sorry, my dog. All the dogs now want to come and cuddle now that I'm doing this video. But anyways, so I knew I could finish. My grandparents came to the finish too, so they definitely wanted to see me finish. So I knew I was going to have to walk down this road. And it was really hard when you're at mile 47 and you wanted to do 50, and then you still had 6 miles left. But I just put my road shoes on, which I'm actually really glad I had in my drop bag. And they kind of gave me some new life for a little bit. and I ate some chips and I just started walking. So I was on the road. Every time I tried to run, I would just get nauseous. My body also wasn't really like regulating temperature anymore, I could tell, because it would be like I'd be very cold and I'd put my little jacket on, and then all of a sudden I would get super hot and super nauseous, and then I would puke. And it would just kind of repeat that cycle. So my body, I think, was just kind of over it. It was shutting down. And yeah, I ended up finishing in just over 13 hours. So definitely kind of had to throw like the pace and the timing and all of the goals out the window and just finish. And I was really proud of myself for just staying positive and like being confident that like this race doesn't define me, and just moving forward. And overall, like, I wasn't happy in the moment when I wasn't feeling good, but I'm really glad I'm finished. I'm really glad I got that experience before Never Summer, and I learned a lot, and I'm just really, really happy that, like, you know, I ended up being able to do such a long course so early in the season. So that was the main recap of everything. I wanted to kind of go into the nutrition component of the race. So with the nutrition, I'm not sure. I think maybe I had too much sugar, but I'm not gonna lie, I started using these Morton gels. I really like them for the shorter distance, but I'm just not that experienced with longer races, and I've never gone into a race being like, I'm gonna push 100%, meaning I need the fuel for that to get the time that I wanted. So like I said, I made it through the first loop in just over 5 hours, which ended up being longer. Like, it was almost 2 miles longer than anticipated. So, you know, obviously I knew the race was going to be longer than 53. So I thought like, okay, 11:15 or under was like my new pivoted goal. And I was on track for that. But unfortunately, I just don't think I was training enough to be taking a gel in every 30 minutes. My stomach was not, it was kind of put into shock mode, I think. I never ate that much. I never did that much. I kind of just winged it, and that was a mistake on my part. So moving forward, I really think I'm going to monitor the sugar. Morton has about 25 grams of sugar. The Canterbury gels have about 5 grams. I just ordered from the feed some high carb scratch that I'm going to use in my bottles, and then I'm going to try to utilize that with less gels, and then maybe some like potatoes, because that seemed to work really well for me last year. And then try to utilize some of the aid station food. And I'm just going to be really diligent in my training over the next 8 weeks to train my body to take in the food it needs, so that I can continue to push at the level that I want to push at. Because ultimately, I think that's what happened. I was fully ready for the 50K. It showed in my performance in the first loop. Honestly, if I would have done the 50K, I probably would have finished in around 5:45. So I would have been really, really happy with that result too. Washington runners are really, really fast though, or Pacific Northwest runners. So I don't think that would have put me anywhere like near top 10 or anything. But from a personal standpoint, that was like really great to know that I would have done that well at the 50K. But yeah, again, like, doing that longer race was so I could prepare myself for Never Summer, and it really showed me kind of what I needed to work on from a fueling standpoint. So I'm hoping that over the next 2 months I can get this figured out. I might go to Boulder and get some hydration testing and fueling testing to see like how many calories or carbs I need per hour, as well as just testing it out on the trails here. I think that will really help me perform better at this race. And then also just getting the mountain legs back, you know. We live at 8,000 feet, so it's kind of hard to get vert. We've had like kind of some bad weather, and then when I did get vert, it was either at lower altitude in Boulder or California. So I feel like I had like a good intro where I was able to finish the race and I was able to recover well, but it wasn't really, you know, I wasn't planning on running this. So I definitely think like in a couple months, I'll be much stronger to handle those harder efforts on those climbs for Never Summer. So those are the two things I really need to work on for this race. And then finally, like, the key takeaways, you know, it was really hard for me to process this because I do get in my head mentally a lot. So, you know, I was happy about a few things, but I was also sad and bummed about the overall performance. I wanted to do a lot better than I did, and I didn't. And it's fine. Like, I know that that race day doesn't define me, and I learned so much. And I know that this is just gonna be the stepping stone to what I need to have that like really awesome breakthrough race for myself and exceed my goals and expectations. You know, I'm not too experienced. This is my second 50-mile race, and I've done 100K. I guess I DNF Leadville, so that was about 45 miles. But it just takes time and patience with the sport and figuring out so many things. So I just can't wait to like do some more of these longer distance races this year and just get really experienced so that I can get really good and master this distance. So yeah, overall bummed about the time and like the way it happened and getting sick, but also the key takeaways are I feel like I crushed my trail marathon PR by 40 minutes, so super happy with that. I would have had a great 50K result, which is what I was training for, is to get under 6 hours. So that would have definitely happened had I stayed in the 50K distance. I'm proud of myself for putting myself out there, even though I maybe wasn't like fully trained or fully sure. I'm also really proud of myself for going for it in the first half and not setting back and being willing to like take myself to those low points. And then also, you know, when I got to the final aid station, I asked my dad, I was set. If he would have gone back down and driven up or something and had a car to drive me down, I would have made him drive me. And when he said, no, I still have to hike, I was like, okay, I'm gonna run back down. I'll finish this race. My grandparents came to see me finish. And my mindset wasn't like, oh my God, I can't keep moving anymore. It was, okay, we've been here, like we've experienced this. So this like 50-mile distance is starting to feel like the 50K distance for me. Hi, Poppy, go lay down. Sorry. The 50K distance. Like I remember when sorry, she's distracting me. I remember when I first started the 50K ultras, it was always like, oh my gosh, how do you even get this going? Like, how do you even go this far? And it just seemed like the end of the world. And now a 50K seems totally manageable to me. So I'm really hoping that the 50-miler distance will get to that point for me this year. I'm not totally sure about like what my race schedule is going to be. I'm doing Never Summer 100K, which is kind of my A race. And then I signed up for the Run Rabbit 50. I kind of talked about that in my last video. So if you want to know what my race plans are, but long story short, I am on the wait list for the Run Rabbit 100. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but regardless, I think I'm going to get a lot of experience in these longer distances. And no matter what happens, I'm going to grow a lot and learn a lot and just become a better runner and a more patient runner. And so I'm really excited to see where this year is going to take me. And yeah, overall, just happy that I finished the race and ready to get back to training. And that's the other thing too. I normally really struggle on like the post-race recovery, especially with these like higher mileage ultras. It seems like it really kind of gets to me mentally and emotionally, and you know, I go out and I'm like, I should feel fine and I'm not running the way I did 2 weeks ago before the race, but I'm starting to learn to be patient. So this week I took Monday through Wednesday off, and then Thursday I did a hike, Friday I did a short run, and then yesterday and Sunday I kind of did some really steep hikes on the CT and ran down, and I feel great. And I was able to get out every day, and I wasn't, you know, I didn't let myself get into that headspace of like, you're not good enough just because you're fatigued. So I'm just really happy with how recovery's gone. And yeah, now I'm just ready to go into this last big training block, since we're 8 weeks out from Never Summer. And yeah, I'm ready to just take everything I learned and bring it into this training, and hopefully, you know, I can have a great race at Never Summer. Yeah, and I guess if I don't, I don't, but I'm gonna put it all out there. So yeah, the next few weeks I'm just gonna be bringing you along for some bigger training runs now that the trails are melting out. I'll probably like do a few videos on the fueling and nutrition just to kind of see what I'm learning as I navigate trying to improve that component for me within my running. And then, I don't know, I thought maybe I'm an On ambassador now, so I thought maybe it'd be fun to do like a clothing haul or kind of a review of the clothing I really like. I really love the brand. It fits super well. So long story short, just lots of really fun and exciting things that I want to share with you on this channel. And yeah, if you haven't, please subscribe to my channel. I'm new to this, I'm still learning, but it's been a really great outlet for me. I've really enjoyed making these videos, and yeah, I really hope that you guys like the content I put out. And if you have any suggestions or feedback, you know, I love to hear the comments. I love to hear what you guys like to see, and you know, it means a lot. So subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, I hope again you guys had a great Memorial Day weekend and had some great adventures out there, and let's get going for summer. So I will see you guys next time, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.